They inherited my late husband's fortune. I found a hidden photo that changes everything. In the quiet town of Brooksville, where the air hung thick with secrets, the sudden death of billionaire philanthropist Mark Reynolds set off a chain reaction. His wife, Claire, was left in a deluge of unanswered questions, and an inheritance that felt heavier than gold. Everyone whispered about the fortune. Was it truly a gift or a curse? Something about his passing just felt off, electric with unspoken truths. As she sifted through the remnants of their life together, Claire stumbled upon an odd old box, nestled deep in the attic, cloaked in layers of dust like a faded memory begging to be uncovered. She unearthed the box. A small wooden chest with brass hinges that creaked like the house itself was a witness to long-hidden tales. Inside, her heart raced as her fingers brushed against yellowed papers, brittle photographs, and a tattered journal. But one particular photo, a faded black-and-white image, caught her eye. It showed Mark standing beside a mysterious woman, their eyes locked in a gaze that sent shivers down her spine. Who was she? And why did the look in their eyes scream intimacy, deep and raw? With each moment, Claire felt the walls of her sanctuary closing in. Her breath quickened, an electric thrill of fear and curiosity igniting something within her. She couldn't shake off the feeling that this photo held a secret more powerful than wealth. It was a glimpse into the shadows that cloaked their marriage. The clock ticked ominously, each sound a reminder that time was short. Claire's heart thudded violently. What had she unleashed? Just 2 days after Mark's funeral, whispers of hidden accounts and unclaimed properties began to swirl through town. The air turned thick with speculation. Did her late husband leave more than just money behind? And what had she missed while blissfully unaware? But before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Claire pieced together Mark's past, a chilling realization set in. The woman in the photo wasn't just a stranger. She was linked to a web of secrets that could shatter everything Claire thought she knew. Each glance at that haunting image ignited a fire in her gut, a driving force that whispered there was more at play. What other secrets lay buried within the shadows of their life? What was Mark hiding? She had to find out. A storm of chaos brewed in her mind, twisting her heart with every unanswered question. Little did she know the tangled truth would pull her deeper into a world where trust was a commodity, and betrayal came cloaked in love. What would she uncover next? Claire sat cross-legged on the attic floor, the faint smell of mildew mixing with the musky scent of aged paper. The mysterious woman from the photo couldn't leave her mind, swirling around like a dark cloud. Who was she? Mark's eyes seemed to sparkle in the photo with a warmth she didn't recognize, a twinkle that made Claire's heart lurch with jealousy. Anger boiled just beneath the surface. Had Mark kept this secret from her all along? It felt like a betrayal she wasn't ready to process. Gritting her teeth, Claire refused to bow to despair. She needed answers. The journal lay nearby, still covered in dust, an unwelcoming relic of their shared past. With trembling hands she reached for it, inhaling deeply as if willing courage into her being. Slowly, she opened the brittle pages, praying they held the key to understanding what had been hidden. The handwriting was hurried, erratic, each word dripped with urgency. Mark had written about his philanthropic endeavors, but mixed in were frantic entries about a woman named Evelyn. The name felt foreign, an unwelcome guest intruding on Claire's grief. A fragment caught her eye. She was everything I never knew I wanted. Each phrase pierced her heart, twisting the knife of betrayal deeper. Just as she began to feel the heat rising in her chest, something slipped from the pages, a small folded note. Unfolding it, Claire discovered it was a ticket stub to a play. The date was long past, but scribbled in the corner was an address. A cold shiver crept down her spine as she realized it was in a town several hours away. Why would he keep it? Was it a place connected to Evelyn? Blood rushed to her head, and panic surged within her. What had Mark been hiding that he felt compelled to keep this secret tucked away? Rising to her feet with the determination of a woman chasing down the truth, Claire found herself craving confrontation. She was tired of being the trusting wife, the oblivious partner. She needed to know who this woman was and why her husband's heart seemed to be buried with secrets. The thought that she could uncover something dark about their life twisted around her, fueling her resolve. As Claire scanned the attic, her eyes caught sight of an envelope peeking from behind a stack of books. With caution she approached it. It looked unassuming but felt as if it buzzed with untold truths. She tugged it free, feeling it might burn her with its revelations. The seal was unbroken. Within it lay what? An explanation? A confession? Just as she was about to tear it open, the echo of footsteps jolted her back to reality. She froze, every fiber of her being on high alert. Who could it be? Did someone find out she was unraveling Mark's secrets? Fear gripped her chest. This was her moment of clarity, but danger lurked at the edges. Claire. A familiar voice called softly, soothing yet alarmed. It was Marco, Mark's lawyer and her trusted friend. But was he really trustworthy? Yeah. Just a minute, she replied, trying to keep her voice steady, though her mind raced with what Marco might know. Determined to face whatever was coming, Claire tucked the envelope into her pocket. She couldn't let anyone see her uncertainty, not now. Not when the stakes felt higher than ever. What would Marco reveal? What if he was part of this twisted web? Each breath felt heavy as she turned towards the stairwell, steeling herself for the confrontation. The unease settled in her stomach as she made her way down the steps. The truth was closer than ever, but was she ready for what awaited her? Fear tinged with adrenaline swept over her. Would she uncover the whole picture? Or would it lead her deeper into the abyss of secrets? All she knew was that nothing would be the same. Claire descended the stairs, her heart hammering against her ribs like a wild animal trying to escape its cage. Each step felt like a confrontation in itself, a challenge to the facade she had worn for so long. What lay ahead? An ally? An enemy? The air thick with uncertainty felt suffocating. As she reached the bottom and stepped cautiously into the dimly lit hallway, Marco stood there, radiating concern as he rubbed the back of his neck. He always had a way of looking uncomfortable, like he was caught between two worlds. Hey Claire. I didn't mean to startle you. We really need to talk. She forced a nod, her pulse racing. Sure. Can it wait? I know it can't. His tone turned serious, cutting through the tension like a knife. I found something out, something about Mark. Her stomach twisted. What do you mean? What did you find? Marco looked torn, like he was wrestling with his own guilt. It's not what you think. It's complicated. I should have told you sooner. Tell me, she demanded, the urgency in her voice rising. What does it have to do with Evelyn? Marco's eyes widened. How did you just tell me? With a huff of defeat, he sat down on the edge of a nearby chair. Okay, but you need to brace yourself. Mark didn't he just meet her? He was involved with her before you two even got married. They had plans. Plans. Her world twisted like a tightrope, wavering dangerously beneath her. What kind of plans? Building something together. A charity for troubled youth, he stammered, avoiding her gaze. The words hung in the air like a loaded gun. But it wasn't he just a project, Claire. They shared something deep, something he never told you about. Anger flared within her. Why keep that from me? Why lie? Because he was trying to protect you. Marco's voice was barely a whisper. Evelyn passed away under complicated circumstances. Mark was devastated. He didn't want to drag you into that pain, and he thought it was best to forget her. The air felt thick, suffocating. So he thought hiding the truth was better? All that makes this betrayal worse. Claire, you have to understand. I believe he loved you truly. But the haunting memories of Evelyn were a chain he carried, Marco said, pain etched on his face. Loved me? She shot back, bitterness in her tone. While he was keeping secrets. While he was lying. Claire, he said gently, sometimes love looks messy. We don't always see the whole picture. She felt her hands tremble, the weight of the envelope in her pocket a stark reminder of her own investigation. What else haven't you told me? Marco hesitated again. I was going to bring you some documents to explain everything. They could change everything for you. What documents? Mark's will. The word echoed in the silence. There are things in there about his past and some annotations. An estate he left behind, a connection to Evelyn. Her heart sank. The truth twisted inside her, a viper coiling tight. What do you mean? Connection? Claire, I really think you should sit down. Just tell me. Her voice rose, a desperate snarl. There's an inheritance tied to Evelyn's family that Mark never disclosed. He might have hidden it from you to protect you from getting hurt. A nerve in her temple pulsed fiercely. This was bigger than she had imagined. So, I'm tied to a past I never knew existed? Marco nodded slowly, the weight of his secrets cracking the fragile trust between them. Her breath faltered. The envelope felt heavier in her pocket, pulsing with the tension of unconfirmed answers. Where's this will? It's at the office. Then let us go there. Now. But as she stormed towards the door, a sudden realization gripped her. If this will open Pandora's box, could she handle the truth buried inside? The answer echoed in her mind as she stepped outside. Was she prepared for the storm that was about to hit? And just as she reached for the car door handle, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Could it be Mark? Or something far worse? Claire fished her phone from her pocket, her pulse quickening as she glanced at the screen. The caller ID read blocked. Her gut twisted. The anonymity felt accusatory. A silent scream wrapped in a veil of mystery. She nearly hit decline but stopped, the need for answers flooding her senses. Heart racing, she answered. Hello? Silence. Just a breath at the other end, heavy and deliberate. She could feel the weight of it suffocating her, pressing against her chest like a vice. Who is this? She demanded. Claire. You need to listen to me, a voice finally broke through, low and urgent. It didn't belong to Mark. Who are you? Someone who knows about Mark's past. And Evelyn. The voice was shaky, tinged with fear that felt too familiar. You're at a crossroads and you have to be careful. There are angles to this you can't see. Careful. Careful of what? Her words were clipped, anger flaring again. Who are you? I can't say, not yet. But do not go to the office. Not until you hear me out. Against her better judgment, curiosity clawed at her insides. Why? What do you know? Everything hinges on her. Evelyn. Finding out the truth could change everything. Mark made choices for a reason. You need to dig deeper, Claire. The line went dead. Frustration rippled through her. She turned to Marco, who had been lingering at the door, concern etched into his features. Who was it? He asked, sensing her turmoil. Somebody who claims to know about Mark and Evelyn. They warned me not to go to the office. Doubt flickered in her mind, threatening her resolve. Yet she couldn't just walk away. Did they say why? Marco stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. She hesitated. Would he believe her? No. Just that it's dangerous. They're alleging there are things tied to Evelyn that could change everything. Dangerous? Marco scoffed. Claire, that's ridiculous. We have to see this will. If there's any chance it outlines what happened, I know, but it feels like there's something off about this. Then let us be smart about it. We can see the will, and if the documents don't connect to anything suspicious, we'll keep searching. Before she could make a decision, Claire felt her phone buzz again. The blocked number. Hesitating, she answered. What? Claire. The same voice blared, panic slicing through the air like a knife. You need to leave. Now. They're coming for you. What do you mean? The line cut off immediately, leaving her trembling. Fear jolting through her veins like ice water. Claire. What is happening? Marco's voice broke through her fog of confusion. I don't know, she whispered, adrenaline flooding her senses. In an instant her mind raced with possibilities. Who was coming for her? Was it just a prank? Or were her fears grounded in something real? She felt Marco's hand on her arm, grounding her. We need to think fast. If this is serious, we can't waste time. What if they're just trying to scare us? Claire's thoughts spiraled wildly. That's the thing, if they aren't, then staying here is a mistake. We need a plan. I still have some contacts at the office. We can find out what's happening without being exposed. Panic battled with instinct. There was something terribly wrong that no one could predict. Her breath caught. What if she was already caught up in a web that spun darker than she could fathom? Okay, Claire finally managed, resolve forming. Let's get to my place first. We can regroup and figure this out. Marco nodded, determination replacing the uncertainty in his eyes as they rushed towards the seer. As she slid into the driver's seat, a flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow darting across the street. Was she being watched? Already the air felt hostile, thick with implications. What was that? Marco snapped, glancing out the window. Her heart thundered in agreement. I don't know, but we have to move. Now. Just as she turned the key and revved the engine, a loud thud hit the side of the car. Claire's eyes widened, fear gripping her throat. Who or what was out there? And then, in the midst of her racing thoughts, a new question emerged. What if everything she thought she knew was just the surface of a much darker truth waiting to be unveiled? Claire's mind spun as she peered into the rearview mirror, adrenaline coursing through her. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribs with every beat. Marco's voice was a distant echo, drowned out by the chaotic symphony of her racing thoughts. All that filled her head were images of shadows lurking and eyes watching. The thud against the car echoed in her ears, threatening to pull her down into a spiral of fear. She had to stay focused. Did you see anything? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. No, I just heard it. Marco's urgency pushed Claire to act. She slammed her foot on the gas, the engine roaring to life as they sped away from the growing sense of danger. The streets blurred past them, each twist and turn feeling precarious. Where do we go now? Marco's gaze darted around, searching for threats she couldn't see. His tension was palpable. Somewhere safe. My apartment has an old access point in the back. We can hide there, Claire replied, her voice steadier than she felt. It was a gamble, but what choice did they have? With each passing second, she felt a sinister presence trailing them as they drove. Unseen but heavy in the air. They passed familiar landmarks, now tinged with dread, their once comforting intentions warped because of an unseen menace. The world outside was alive, but it felt like a stage set for a tragedy, and she was the star unwillingly thrust into the role. Do you think they really are coming for us? Marco's question pierced into her thoughts, dragging her back. I don't know. I can't think about that now. If we make it to my place, we'll figure it out, she insisted, trying to sound confident as they turned onto a less crowded street. The mildly familiar sights of her neighborhood loomed ahead, but the weight of uncertainty loomed larger. The shadows seemed closer, sharper. Her phone buzzed again, and Claire jumped as if a jolt of electricity had surged through her. Leave it, Marco shouted, panic breaking through his resolve. We can't risk it. But she couldn't help herself. She glanced at the screen, heart sinking as she recognized the blocked number again. Maybe it was the key to all the uncertainty, a lifeline to the truth. Gritting her teeth, she answered. Claire, they know you're trying to hide, the voice hissed, urgent. Listen to me closely, who are you? She shouted, desperate but also frightened. What do you want from me? Go to your apartment. There's something there you need to see. They'll be targeting you soon. You won't be safe for long. It's vital. Why should I trust you? The skepticism rang through her voice. Because they're hiding something. A hidden photo connected to Evelyn. Changes everything. Her breath stopped. She had seen Evelyn's name in Mark's files. But there were no hints of a photo. No whispers of dark secrets tied to her. What are you talking about? She demanded, but before the voice could respond, a loud bang resonated from outside the car. Claire's heart dropped into her stomach as thick fear choked her. She glanced to the side and froze. A figure stood there, blocking the street, menacingly tall, their face shrouded in the shadows. Go, Claire. Now, Marco shouted, his urgency shattering the moment. She slammed the accelerator again, tires screeching. As they tore down the road away from the unseen threat, Claire's mind raced back to the voice's words. A photo. Something hidden that could shake the entire foundation of what she thought she knew. What could be in that photograph, and how deep did this rabbit hole go? Every instinct told her this wasn't just about Mark anymore. There was a bigger game at play. And if they didn't unravel it soon, they might fall prey to something far darker than they could imagine. As they approached her apartment, another question echoed in her mind. Had they already crossed a point of no return? The apartment loomed ahead, a gray stone sentinel rising against the night sky. Claire's heart hammered, not just from the chase, but from the torrent of uncertainty flooding her thoughts. She had always felt safe here, but safety felt like a distant memory now. Quick! Park behind the building, Marco urged, his voice tight with panic. Claire obeyed, her hands trembling as she squeezed the wheel. Pulling into the shadowed alley, she cut the engine, silence enveloping them like an ominous shroud. They sat in stillness, The world outside muffled like a dream. Claire held her breath, listening for any sign of danger. It felt as if time had stopped, the stillness pressing on her chest. "Do you think we lost them?" Marco whispered, eyes darting to the darkness beyond. "I hope so." Claire forced the words out, but doubt twisted in her gut. "We need to move." As they climbed out of the car, Claire could feel the shadows creeping in, hungry and insistent. She led Marco to the back in trance, her heart racing with each cautious step. The old wooden door creaked eerily, protesting against the excess weight of the night. Shoving it open, she stepped inside. The familiar scent of stale air hit her, blending with the memories of countless quiet evenings spent alone, now twisted with the weight of newfound terror. They hurried down the dim hallway, the dappled moonlight casting long shadows that danced ominously on the walls. "Where's this access point?" Marco asked, eyes wide. "Just down the hall," Claire said, fear buzzing in her veins. "But we need to be careful. I don't know who's looking for us." They reached the room, tension stretching between them as she fumbled with the door. Inside, the darkness seemed alive, thick and unsettling. Claire flicked on a light. The room blinked to life, revealing remnants of her past furniture she had inherited, books gathering dust. "Now what?" Marco asked, peering over her shoulder. "There should be something," Claire murmured, searching through drawers, her fingers trembling over forgotten papers and trinkets. The photos of Evelyn scattered randomly, faces frozen in time, mocked her. Then she found it tucked away in a corner, a small envelope. The weight of it felt wrong, pressing against the air as she pulled it free. Her heart quaked, the reality of what could lie inside heavy above her. "Claire, hurry," Marco urged, glancing out the window. "We don't have much time." She opened the envelope and a photograph spilled out. Her hands quivered as she took a closer look, the air thick with apprehension. It was a picture of Evelyn, but she wasn't alone. There was someone with her, obscured by shadows in the background. As she turned it over, Claire's breath quickened. Written in hasty scrawls were names, a web of connections she never could be predicted. Each name was a jigsaw piece fitting together, revealing a darker truth swirling beneath the surface. Who are these people?" Marco asked, leaning in closely. They were barely recognizable, some connected, others utterly foreign. "I don't know," she whispered, heart racing. A sudden crash echoed from the main floor, and panic surged. "They're here." Intensity shot through Claire's veins as the sounds of hurried footsteps filled the air. "No more time. We have to hide," she gasped, seeking a spot that offered cover. Marco's eyes widened in fear as they ducked beneath a pile of old boxes, shadows swallowing them whole. Their hearts pounded in sync with the chaos outside, every creak and groan amplifying the anxiety in the air as they crouched in darkness. A realization swept through her, a knowledge even sharper than fear. Not only were they seeking the photo, they were hunting her. And now Claire understood. This wasn't just about Evelyn. They were tangled in a conspiracy that could upend everything she knew. What had she stumbled onto? With nervous breaths they awaited their fate, their minds racing, but one question hung perpetually. What if they weren't the only ones searching for the truth, and the shadows closing in had agendas far more sinister than her own? And as the door creaked ominously, Claire felt a cold shiver of dread snake down her spine. Would they emerge with answers? Or would they draw something darker from the depths of the night? The door slowly creaked open, revealing a silhouette outlined against the dimly lit hallway. Claire's breath caught in her throat, panic flooding her system. They hadn't made a sound. How could anyone have found them? "Stay quiet," Marco whispered, his voice barely a breath. They could only pray that the intruders wouldn't notice the small pile of boxes that concealed them like a tomb. Footsteps echoed, heavy and deliberate, growing closer with each passing second. Claire squeezed Marco's hand, her mind racing. There was nowhere to go, nothing to do but wait and hope. The muffled sounds of nearby voices sent a chill down her spine, and she fought the urge to peek. "Search everywhere," a deep voice commanded, filled with authority and menace. "We know she's here." Claire's heart raced as the reality set in. These weren't random intruders. They were seeking her. The photograph had made her a target, and she had unwittingly dragged Marco into this nightmare. Evelyn's south hiding place could be an exit, another voice suggested, sharper than the first. "We can't let her slip away again." Again? Claire thought. Who was this speaker? What history was buried within the walls of her seemingly ordinary life? The pair of searchers moved toward the room they had just left. Claire felt Marco tense beside her, a shiver coursing through them both. Then there was silence. Had they found the photo? Moments dragged on, but the oppressive stillness was broken suddenly by a crash as one of the intruders kicked a box aside. The light from the hall spilled into their hiding spot, illuminating their terrified faces. Claire bit her lip, tasting blood, a bitter reminder of her vulnerability. "Claire." Marco breathed sharply, a whisper filled with urgency. She shook her head, terrified of losing control. The next few seconds felt like an eternity. Shadows stretched out toward them, the faint beam of a flashlight sweeping across the room. Claire placed a finger to her lips, willing Marco to stay silent, and then, louder than the footfalls, came the unmistakable sound of her own name. "Claire, we know you're here." Her pulse quickened. It was a voice from her past, one she had thought long gone. "Who is that?" Claire murmured, but could see Marco's eyes widen with recognition. "Silas," he whispered back in disbelief. The footsteps continued, retreating momentarily, and Claire struggled to make sense of what was happening. Silas had been a friend, but after Evelyn's death, he had slipped into darkness, consumed by mysteries of his own. Why was he hunting her now? Without warning, the light swung back, and she could see one figure was closer, an outline she now recognized, the silhouette unmistakable. But what was he doing with these men? Panic gripped her as Claire's thoughts raced. She couldn't trust anyone. Fear wrapped around her heart like iron, and a new resolve surged within her. Silently, she mouthed to Marco, "We need to escape." With each movement, the world around them grew heavier, the oppressive weight of uncertainty threatening to collapse on them. The footsteps resumed, drawing dangerously closer. Then, just as the door swung wide, Claire's heart launched into her throat. She leaped from under the boxes, adrenaline firing every nerve in her body. "This way!" she screamed, grabbing Marco's hand and bolting past the gaping figures, her instincts guiding her deeper into the shadows of her own home. They ran into the back corridor, the press of fear propelling them forward. Behind them, shouts erupted, a cacophony of confusion that mingled with relentless pursuit. Claire's lungs burned, but they couldn't stop. Not now. What lay ahead? Would they find help in this relentless hunt? Or was Silas part of the trap they were desperately trying to escape? Just ahead, Claire spotted something familiar, a fire escape leading to the roof. "Up!" she shouted, pulling Marco along as they raced toward the ladder. Would the heights provide safety or expose them further? With every step, the unrelenting grip of fury and trepidation tightened, pushing them toward an uncertain fate. Claire glanced back for a moment. The figures were gaining. Silas's voice cut through the air, sharp and commanding. "Don't let them get away." As they ascended the ladder, the roof beckoned a world of possibilities. But above them, darkness loomed. Would they be trapped or free? The night sky stared back, indifferent and vast, as the last echoes of the pursuit surged behind them. Was there a way out? Or was this just the beginning of a trap that would ensnare them all? The roof met them with a gust of wind that whipped Claire's hair across her face, the chill of the night air stark against the flush of her panic. She and Marco skidded to a halt, gasping for breath, their eyes scanning for escape. "We need to hide," Marco panted, looking around wildly. He was right, this open space felt like the last place they should be. Claire spotted a narrow ledge that ran along the side of the building. The thought of clinging to that edge sent a fresh wave of fear through her, but it was a chance they had to take. "Over here," she called, leading him toward the ledge. With their backs to the wall, they crouched low, listening intently for the thundering footsteps that would signal the approach of their pursuers. Behind them, the city glimmered below, a false sense of safety wrapped in its twinkling lights. "Did you hear him?" Marco whispered, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Why is Silas working with them?" I thought he was your friend?" Claire interrupted, gripping Marco's arm tightly. "We need to focus." They crouched in silence, the adrenaline pounding in Claire's ears. Time stretched like a rubber band, taut and aching. In the distance, shouts echoed faintly, each threatening syllable slamming into her like waves crashing against rock. Suddenly, a heavy thud jolted them. Claire turned sharply as the figures emerged onto the roof. Silas led them, his silhouette clear in the moonlight, flanked by the two other men, whose faces remained shrouded in shadows. Claire's heart quickened. She couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Split up. Silas barked, and each man took a different direction on the roof. Pressing further against the wall, Claire felt the texture of the brick digging into her back. They could already be discovered. There was nowhere left to run. Marco's grip tightened on her, his breath quick and panicked. "Claire," he whispered, "what do we do?" "Just wait," she answered, forcing herself to calm the rising fear. Her mind raced through scenarios. Would they turn back, thinking she had escaped to the streets below? Or would they scour this roof until they found them? Silas's voice broke through her thoughts, clear and confident. "She's here. I know it. We can't let her get away again. We need to find the photo. It's everything." The photo. Claire's pulse quickened. It was more than just a piece of paper. It was the key to whatever secret tied her to the danger closing in. What did Silas know that she didn't? And why did it matter so much? As she caught the tremor in his voice, realization hit hard. "What if it's not just about me?" Claire murmured, suddenly aware of the stakes. "What if they're after something bigger? Something Evelyn left behind?" Marco shook his head, though uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "Evelyn? What do you mean?" Before she could explain, the sound of footsteps grew dangerously close. Claire pressed her back against the wall and glanced around for any possible escape routes. "Silas! Over here!" One of the men shouted, prompting Claire to glance at Marco. They had little time. "A distraction," Marco suggested suddenly, a spark of determination igniting in his eyes. "I can create a noise. We run when they check it out." Claire hesitated. It was reckless and dangerous. But with time slipping away and Silas's reckoning looming over them, they had to act. "Okay, go," she urged, heart racing as Marco took a deep breath. Just as he moved to create the diversion, an unsettling voice broke through the night. "Claire, you can't hide from your past." Claire's head snapped to Silas, horror flooding through her. He knew they were there. "Run!" she cried, but before she could react, a chilling laugh echoed behind them, sending shivers racing down her spine. Then came the sound of heavy footsteps, the men moving closer. In that moment, the weight of reality crashed down around her as the final pieces began to fit together. Was the truth buried in that photograph worth the danger? She had to find out, but was she too late? The urgency pressed like a vice, leaving her wondering, how far would they go to get the picture, and more importantly, what else had it uncovered? With shadows looming and terror tightening its grip, the chase was far from over. And as Claire and Marco prepared for one final desperate escape, a glimmer of the truth hung just out of reach, threatening to unravel everything they knew. A pulse of adrenaline shot through Claire's veins as she weighed their options. They were cornered, the relentless echoes of heavy boots approaching with each heartbeat. With no time to think, she grabbed Marco's hand, pulling him toward the far end of the ledge, where the edge dropped off into darkness. They could leap down 2 stories, but they would have to dodge the figment of their past. "Silas. Claire, we can't just jump. We could break something." Marco gasped, his eyes wide. "It's that or get caught," she argued, urgency coloring her tone. They had to act now or risk losing everything in the dim light. Claire saw the edge of the building sloping down. Breath hitching in her throat, she counted down in her head. On 3, 1, 2, 3. They jumped. Air rushed past them as the ground rose to meet them with a shuddering thud. Claire instantly regretted the decision as pain shot through her ankle. She grimaced but forced herself to keep moving. Marco was already a step ahead, eyes scanning their surroundings like a hawk. "Over there," he whispered, pointing to a narrow alleyway just off to their left. They dashed toward it, Claire wincing with every step. Was that a shout behind them? The sound came again, louder, a fierce shout from Silas, filled with contempt. Panic set in as the darkness swallowed them whole, the narrow passage offering little comfort. "Which way?" Marco asked. "We could circle back through the buildings or no time," Claire interrupted, leading him deeper into the alley. The shadows embraced them, wrapping tight, threatening to stifle her racing heart. Each echo of their pursuers' footsteps made her want to bolt again, but there was nowhere to run. Suddenly a bright light flickered ahead, stark and menacing. It was an open side door to an aging service building. Without thinking, Claire bolted toward it, tugging Marco along. The door creaked ominously as they slipped inside. But their urgency drowned out the sound. Inside was little more than a darkened room, filled with dust and the smell of mildew. The barely noticeable outlines of old furniture loomed in the corners, but they had no time to waste. "Look for something we can use," Marco urged, rummaging through old crates. Claire turned, her eyes searching the shadows when she caught sight of a large canvas bag sitting against the wall. She pulled it into the light, dragging it toward them. This could have something valuable. Fingers trembling, she unzipped the bag. Inside it contained random tools, a few rusted metal pieces, and a photo album. The air felt thick, almost electric. She hesitated, heart racing, and opened it. What she saw made her blood run cold. There were images of Evelyn, taken in moments of secrecy with men Claire didn't recognize. The same men who had hunted them. Her breath hitched in her throat. "Claire." Marco's voice sliced through her shock. The fear carved in its tone pulled her back to reality. "It's," she stammered, flipping through the pages where each photograph seemed to unveil more secrets about her mother. "These aren't just family pictures. They're connected to this." She held up the album to the photo they want. "Then we need to destroy it," Marco said urgently as footsteps echoed closer. "No," Claire snapped, the weight of her mother's legacy heavy on her shoulders. "We need to know what it reveals. This is bigger than us." Before another thought could form, the door suddenly crashed open. A shadow breached the threshold, silhouetting Silas against the light. Claire's heart plummeted, knowing only one reality time was running out, and they had no choice. Silas stepped fully into the room. A chilling smile spread across his face. "Did you honestly think you could keep running forever, Claire? You're only digging a deeper hole." In that moment, Claire exchanged a quick glance with Marco, a silent pact forming between them. They weren't finished yet. The storm was brewing. Secrets were begging to be revealed, and Claire could feel the truth closing in like a vice, threatening to crush them both. What if this was only the beginning? What if the photograph held the key to saving them? With that thought looming in her mind, Claire braced herself as the confrontation spiraled toward a conclusion she couldn't yet comprehend. The truth awaited them, but at what price? The tension in the room thickened, wrapping around Claire like a noose. Silas stood there, a puppet master weaving a tale of distrust. His smirk promised betrayal. "What do you want, Silas?" Claire shot back, bravado fueling her voice. "There is no need for theatrics. You've already put yourself in a position where there's no way out. You should know better by now." Silas leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, the weight of unsaid accusations hanging in the air. "What have you and your cronies been digging at? What's this about Evelyn?" Marco interjected, stepping protectively close to Claire. "A valiant effort to protect her, Marco," Silas sneered. "But you don't get to play the hero in this one." The dismissive wave of his hand made Claire's chest tighten with frustration. Silas took a step closer, eyes glinting with something dark. "Evelyn was part of something bigger than you can comprehend. You'd think Mark would have told you, but secrets are hard to keep buried when they're meant to topple empires." "Enough with your games," Claire shouted, adrenaline fueling her resolve. "What does that even mean? What exactly did Mark and Evelyn do?" Her heart hammered in her chest. Every moment felt like a countdown toward chaos. They were involved in something that could shatter the entire foundation of the fortune he left behind. Silas's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, edging closer still. But she knew too much, and when she died, well, Mark thought burying the truth was the only way to save you. You inherited the burdens of both his guilt and the fortune. And now you're carrying Evelyn's secret too. Claire's mind reeled, the pieces of the puzzle slipping through her fingers like grains of sand. What did they leave behind? Her voice trembled, caught somewhere between anger and fear. "The photo," Silas grinned, "is just the beginning. Mark didn't just love you. He loved Evelyn too. And apparently she had secrets tied to every connection he had. Those are the strings I'm about to pull on. I want the damned photo." Clenching her jaw tight enough to hurt, Claire shook her head defiantly. "You think I'll hand it to you? You don't know who you're dealing with." At that moment the air shifted dangerously. Silas's men moved closer, already sensing the chaos gathering like a storm. There was a sudden shout from out in the alley. It was Marco. "Go!" he yelled, shoving Claire down a narrow corridor that branched away from Silas. They burst into motion, Claire's heart pounding as she felt the heat of the chase boiling behind them. The raucous sounds of footsteps and shouts echoed close, but the urgency of their situation pressed her forward. They rounded a corner just as the sound of heavy boots drew nearer, their breaths coming in desperate gasps. The weight of that photo tugged at her mind. Was it truly the key to unraveling the entire twisted web Mark had created? Claire left. Marco quickly pulled her out of line sight into a dark stairwell. They creaked up the stairs, fleeing toward the roof once more, Claire's breath hitching at the memory of their last escape. "We can't keep running," she yelled, her voice laced with panic. But Marco's eyes shone with determination. "If Silas finds you at the end of this, he wins. If we can get that photo back, if we can expose the truth, we have to make a stand." Finally, they reached the rooftop again, the stars twinkling overhead like a mockery of their turmoil. Claire felt her adrenaline surge as their eyes scanned for escape routes. "Up there," Claire shouted, pointing towards an adjacent rooftop, where a narrow gap opened between buildings. "If we can jump across, I don't know, Claire. That's risky." Marco breathed heavily, hesitating. "This is our chance," Claire snapped, heart racing with resolve. "If we let them take the photo, it's over. We jump, regroup, and find a way to expose Silas and uncover whatever Evelyn left behind." With a fierce look in her eyes, Claire took a step back, momentum fueling her decision. 1, 2, 3. They leaped, the rush of air filling their lungs, and landed safely atop the adjacent rooftop. The relief was short-lived, though, as the sounds of shouts below reminded them they were far from safe. Now, with their backs against the wall, Claire faced Marco, adrenaline giving her strength. "We have a chance at this. We can expose whatever he has been hiding, whatever Mark wanted to protect us from. We need a plan," Marco panted, urgency ticking like time bombs in their hearts. As they peered over the edge, the street below was an explosive mixture of chaos and shadows, footsteps, and urgency moving swiftly. Every moment counted. "We head to the office. With that we might have leverage," Marco said, setting his jaw. "And if Silas manages to take us out first?" Claire admitted, fear lacing each word. "Then we go down fighting." Marco's voice held a steady flame of defiance that ignited Claire's own spirit. Silas's pursuit wouldn't stop. He'd fight tooth and nail to hide the truth. And Claire felt it like a crackling energy. They'd fight together against whatever darkness lurked on the edge of their lives. She reached for Marco's hand, and they squeezed, sealing their commitment. "Let us finish this." They dashed across rooftops, ducking low against the chaos echoing behind them. They were two warriors stepping into the fray, determined as shadows danced through the chaos below. With every step toward uncovering the truth, the whisper of Evelyn echoed in their hearts. Her story was entwined with theirs now, and Claire wouldn't let it fade into the night. As they prepared for one final confrontation, Claire only had one thought penetrating the fear that battered at her mind. The fight for the truth was more than her inheritance. It was for Evelyn. It was for Mark. And it was for the life they could reclaim if only they could break through the darkness. It was now or never to confront everything she had fought so hard to protect, and uncover the truth that awaited them, whether it led to liberation or destruction. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and make this community grow. Flood the comments with your thoughts and theories about this. Ending your reactions make all the difference. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. It's time to rally together and dive into the next thrilling chapter.